Oh, hi. You've unlocked another
Minisode.
Another one.
All about Booktok and Bookstagram.
What a topic.
How they've influenced us.
Mm-hmm.
How they've influenced an entire reading community.
That's it. How they've almost revolutionised reading.
Oh, yeah, and how it all began and, our thoughts, generally.
Yeah, it's a deep dive.
Yeah, don't expect... Yeah. Amy went, it's a deep dive and then sort of narrowed her eyes and went...
Maybe a shallow paddle.
We're dipping toes.
We're dipping toes at the moment.
We don't pretend to have all the knowledge. Just, assume most of it's our opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Unless we tell you otherwise.
Yeah, and if this is the first minisode you've listened to, this is just a chance for us to chat about general
book stuff. We don't have a book that we're focusing on this week. There is another one a couple of weeks back. There was Book Slumps, and you can look on our Patreon for other potentially explicit ones. Sex in books, smut, some edited, more in-depth discussions about sex scenes. But yes, that's for the Patreon. This is for now.
So for now.
All right, Amy. When did you first sort of come across Bookstagram, Booktok?
So for me, Bookstagram, I don't really use it. I don't have an Instagram account.
Who are you?
Are you even? Are you, Amy?
Yeah.
I'm 32. I don't know. I've never ever been into Instagram.
Okay.
I have lots of friends who use it.
I've got lots of friends.
Lots of friends in real life. And they always ask me, why aren't you using it? My mother-in-law uses it. Shout out to Carol. And she says, oh, can I tag you in this photograph on Instagram? And I'm like, well, you could try, but I'm not on there.
She can tag me.
And I'll see it and go, oh, that's me. But for Booktok, well, I think I got into TikTok when everybody else did, right, during COVID.
Yeah, so we should talk a little bit about that. I definitely think TikTok was, you were just saying, because I'm more on Bookstagram than I was on Booktok. I have both, but I'm much more familiar with Bookstagram. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you were saying TikTok started as like a dance app, sort of like a fun sort of...
Yeah, I think it was the idea of, not so much as it is now, but the idea of viral sounds.
Yeah.
And people made up sort of strange... well, it wasn't like a dance in that they would put the camera up and you would see a full shot of them. Yeah. It was like they would like move their hand around.
I think I've seen ones that... I also think it's like... For me, TikTok held the same mystique that Snapchat does. It's not for us when it's a lot of younger people. God, how old do we sound? God, I'm only 31 as well. The kids use Snapchat to communicate.
Use Snapchat.
I had a Snapchat when I was like 17, but it was not that deep.
Oh no, I had Snapchat when it first came out, so I don't know when that was, but I was pretty young.
Must have been about 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Right?
Uh-huh.
I mean, I think I had it through university and then I got rid of it quite quickly.
I don't get the point of it. I don't get the idea of why the messages disappear. My memory's not good enough. If you send me a message on Snapchat and then you expect me to reply and I can't see what you wrote.
It just gave rise to an awful lot of horrible dick pics.
I take it that was the point of it.
Oh, okay. Moving on.
Anyway.
Snapchat doesn't deserve our time. But
no.
I sort of saw TikTok as an extension of Snapchat. Not for messaging or whatever, but just as you don't need this.
I think it came off the back of Vine.
Yes, and I loved Vine.
Me too. The same idea of it being like quick.
Short form content.
Yeah, that's it.
For sure. And I definitely am curious as to... TikTok clearly had a prevalence and then Instagram introduced Reels. And I suspect that TikTok came first. Bloody love TikTok. It's so enthralling. But only aspect of TikTok.
The psychology behind TikTok's fascinating for sure. I don't know if it's a great thing. I think it taps into something within us that maybe shouldn't be exploited.
The beginning of the end of the human race.
Potentially. Certainly the beginning of the end of people's attention span.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, 6-second videos, anything longer? No, thank you.
I remember being a kid though when the internet first kind of came and, we got videos online and buffering was a thing. Remember videos having to buffer?
Yeah, hilarious.
And it maybe took about a minute.
Yeah.
And now, if you don't get instant gratification within you're swiping away.
Yeah.
You're like, a second in, I'm not interested. No.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the thing about Booktok, the thing about TikTok, Booktok. It is short and sharp, and it has to get to the point very quickly. And it feeds you the same content that you interact with. So if you watch a lot of Booktok, you'll be given a lot of Booktok. That's how the algorithm works.
Yeah, unless you come across some weirdos live. That is not at all anything to do with Booktok.
No. So that's when I became... I suppose that's when I found TikTok, and then off the back of that,
2019, 2020,
Yeah.
2020.
I'd say so. And then off the back of that, maybe I was starting to get fed some Booktok content,
Yep.
and I enjoyed it because I enjoy reading.
Mhm.
And the more I interacted, the more I maybe liked things
Yeah.
or saved things. I save a lot of videos from Booktok to remind me what I might want to read. I just found more and more creators, and it's a really great community.
Yeah. Do you consider yourself an active participant, or are you more of a lurker?
I'm a lurker, for
Okay.
sure. Oh, well, I mean, maybe becoming an active participant now. But yeah, putting my face...
100 followers, guys. Just over 100 followers. Might have changed in a couple of weeks when this goes out.
Could have done. But yeah, put my face on TikTok is certainly something I haven't considered doing up to this point.
Yeah. Whereas I just pushed you into the spotlight at this point. I was like, we're doing it.
Very much consensual. Yeah, I was never an active member of the community. I wasn't putting out content. I was just a lurker, passively consuming lots and lots of short content, 3 seconds long.
What is... We'll come to my experiences with Booktok in a minute, but what are a few reads that you've taken from Booktok specifically? Because I think we can both safely say, well, I'm not sure I can speak for myself, but hopefully I can speak for you too. We're Booktok fans, not necessarily overarching TikTok fans.
Oh no, I mean, some of the things on TikTok are horrific.
Yep.
I'm not going to go into it because it's not that kind of podcast, but I think that the way that they monitor the content on it is appalling.
Yep.
So yeah, not going to go down that road. The thing is, some authors, and I don't know if it's even so much some publishing houses, I think it's just some authors, use Booktok incredibly well to market their book. I'm not quite sure how they do it. Okay. But I knew about...
And if you did, you should tell us.
I know.
We do need to market the podcast.
We do. But I heard about Fourth Wing 4 months before it was released, probably.
Oh, wow, okay.
All over TikTok.
Yeah. And do you think, was that Rebecca Yaros's doing, or was that people who potentially got narcs, or maybe, like you said, publishers or her publicists going and doing that for her?
I think she's got a TikTok. I think she puts out
content. I'm
content.
sure she does, but do you think that marketing element was her? Because we've got Olivia Blake as well. Olivia Blake, who did the Atlas 6.
Yes,
yeah. That was she was self-published, and then that went massively Booktok viral specifically, and now, I mean, I kind of get away from her books.
No.
Not in a bad way, just I have a lot in this room, but you know. Yeah, so Fourth Wing's a one that you remember vividly.
It's just one
seeing.
that I remember thinking, wow. There was a point on TikTok where it was every single video was a review or a snippet of the book or...
one of those aesthetic reels where it shows like loads of different flash pictures of the aesthetic of the book.
Like flip through the pages of the book, and then it's like, this is what I imagined when I was reading Fourth Wing. So I think that's one of the big ones for me. Not the biggest fan of it, but...
No, well.
We're not talking about that specifically.
I've not read Fourth Wing. When I heard there was going to be 5, I was like, oh wait. 4, 5. Back to Booktok.
Yeah, so I think that there are certain books that have done incredibly well off the back of Booktok.
Yeah.
Interestingly, a lot of authors who people think, oh, this is a new author. No. This is an author that's been going around for a long time.
Coho, Colleen Hoover, has done exceptionally well off of Booktok. I've never read a Colleen Hoover book in my life, and she's quite I'm not going to say an old author, but she was around very pre-Booktok.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, definitely, I know that she's been catapulted into Booktok stratosphere, and Emily Henry as well. I see her books on Booktok all the time.
Yeah, bright, colourful covers.
Yeah, for sure. Very aesthetically pleasing, that sort of thing. But
Jennifer L. Armentrout, she was... I think people thought From Blood and Ash was like her debut. Nope, she had written a lot of books before that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we get our SJMs. That's everywhere.
I do think that ACOTAR is a lot of people's gateway, like Booktok, because it's everywhere.
Yeah, I think I remember at one point coming across to a sort of a trend coming across to Bookstagram that was recommend me a book that's not ACOTAR.
Yeah.
You know, I think a lot of people on Bookstagram, and I don't speak for all of us when I say this, consider us the more sophisticated version of Booktok.
Okay.
I don't
Interesting.
think... And I'm not saying we are.
It's just interesting that that's the dynamic.
I think because it's a lot less faster paced content, a lot less more like because you have the option of photos and reels. And I mean, obviously Instagram fucks with their algorithms so that reels have more weight than just photos, which is crazy for a photo app. Remember your origins, Instagram.
Oh.
But I think because there's that element, I've still got a lot of Bookstagram friends who only do photos. because that's what they love to do. So Bookstagram's been around probably about
Really interesting.
5 or 6 years longer than TikTok. It started its prevalence, around about 2015, where a lot of people who read books were given the chance to put up really pretty and aesthetically pleasing photos of their books. I've had a Bookstagram since the year I was doing my masters, which is 2019. Yeah, I did it as a distraction for my master's thesis. It's such an ingrained app in me now.
It's really interesting that it's like, it's almost seen as TikTok, I guess, is like a cheaper version of it then. Is that because, as you say, it's fast-paced content and it's maybe seen as not being...
But then I wonder whether it goes the other way and it's seen at Booktok or TikTok is seen as Bookstagram's more dynamic, younger sibling.
Yeah, okay.
Like... It's if Bookstagram is a millennial, TikTok is Gen Z.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. I guess does that kind of make sense maybe for the audience too?
Yeah, I'd say so. That? Yeah, I definitely think there's a clear, a definitive younger audience on Booktok, TikTok than there is. Not necessarily everyone, but the average has got to be younger than what is on Bookstagram. Mm-hmm. For sure. I think you do get a lot of, especially me, when I started my Bookstagram, I think maybe a couple of years in when Booktok or TikTok was becoming big and you realised that creators were going across there, I put my very first reel. A few of them were, I think the very first reel the very first reel was about me. It wasn't even about books. It was about how I met Alex.
Oh.
It was the song Paradise by Coldplay.
Oh, okay.
Be my paradise.
That's cute.
I hope that came out nicely in like really harmony, and everyone's just like, "Oh my god, they should be singers."
Singing podcast. So you put that out there
just as fun, just for fun. I sort of saw it as a bit more of a me account rather than a bookstore account.
But you had an audience.
Yeah,
who you felt would want to find out. You didn't put that out there just to see if anybody was interested. You had people you thought might come from Bookstagram over to Booktok.
Not intentionally.
No.
I think I already had a little audience on Bookstagram, and I was like, yeah, I'll get myself a TikTok, it'd be fun, and I'll just...
I'll use it differently.
Because at that point, for me, I imagine Booktok existed, but it wasn't as huge. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I definitely think I don't know when I started. I'll get exact dates up and we'll put it up somewhere. But yeah, and the first couple, and the second is the dog.
Aww.
The second one is the dog, and then the third one, which actually pretty big, it went sort of semi-little big, was us, the first part of us doing this library.
Oh great, I've seen that. Yeah.
So it was about 75,000 views.
That's big.
It's not bad.
No. It's crazy when you think about that many people is going to be like a sports stadium amount of people.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. But it came out of nowhere, and I've never had anything like that since.
Isn't it interesting what it is that makes a video successful?
What could pop off? There's not even any there's no trending sound on there. It's just me doing a voiceover.
Oh wow!
With a bunch of photos in a relay. But it's what people want to see.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, Scottish Booktok, were here for me, because when we moved up, obviously I explained that we've just moved bought a house in Scotland. I met a friend through there.
Great.
I
love there's a Scottish Booktok.
Yeah.
Right, that's really cool.
Even looking it through our now new foray into Booktok as Page Turner's Bookish Pod.
Check out.
What? Page Turner's Pod. There's quite a lot of Scottish people. And I wonder whether that's based on location.
Yeah, maybe.
But hey, loving it.
Doesn't matter. We'll
take our kin.
Yeah, we'll take you all in, and we'll be like
We'll read books to you.
Yeah, that's it.
For sure. Okay, so for me, I can't really say Booktok made me buy this, etc. But I can say Bookstagram made me buy this. Anything by Elise Cover. So Air Awakens, Deal with the Fae Prince, Dance with the something.
She has the series of the Do with the Do.
Yes,
right?
yes. Duel with the Vampire Lord. But that's quite new. But the Elise Covers, and she does an incredible fantasy series, like a tournament of something.
Okay.
Sorry, guys, really bad information here. So anything by Elise Cover came from Bookstagram for me.
Was that because of her?
I only follow her now based on that. But I think potentially when this Dance with the Fae Lord or whatever came out, maybe her whole back catalogue was discovered in a way,
Maybe because of the rise in popularity of Fae romances.
For sure. Booktok and Bookstagram have to be singularly at fault for the rise of Fae. I mean, obviously you've got all the writers, but the popularity of it has to come from that.
The almost mainstream element of it. I was watching terrestrial TV the other day, because we haven't had internet.
Disgusting.
And there was adverts. That's an experience, to watch adverts when you're watching a TV show. In fact, when I was watching a film, so that was very odd. Yeah, ACOTAR series was advertised on TV.
What?
I know.
The book series?
The book series.
But on what?
Just as an advert. Just on, I think it was ITV2.
But I don't think it's been a while since I've watched adverts willingly or with enough
I'm the same.
To bring them in
I'm the same.
and be like, oh yeah, that advert's that. But I don't think I've ever seen an advert for a book.
That's exactly what Rudy said, because he was like, he didn't know, well, he kind of knows of the book, but he didn't really know of the book as such, but he was like, that's a book that has been advertised on TV, and I was like, that's ACOTAR.
Yeah.
I can see why that's been advertised on TV, because it's so huge.
Yeah. Both Bookstagram and Booktok adore ACOTAR.
And I'm not taking anything away from Sarah J Maas, but it's a huge reason why it's so incredibly popular, right? Has to be.
Yeah. It is just blown up for its sins as well. I'm not saying anything.
No, we haven't talked about it. We are very staunch in that unless we do an actual episode on a book, we don't really have too strong, is that fair to say? We don't really have too strong opinions. We're not going to go into too much detail.
Although go out and buy every single book by Elise Covey that you've ever seen. Breaking our own rules. Slap my own hand. Right, so, Bookstagram, yay or nay? Do you think it's had a good impact on the bookish community?
I think you could look at it in one of two ways.
Ooh, excellent.
Yes, because it encourages people who perhaps would not have read previously to read.
Yeah,
and I think
agree with that.
Anything that gets people reading.
We have said this so many times on the podcast. We say it all the time together. Like, it doesn't matter what you read. It doesn't matter how much you read. It doesn't matter where you read. How you read.
We're not snobs about books in the slightest.
We obviously have our favourites, but so does everyone else.
Exactly.
But yeah, at the end of the day, as long as you're reading, it can't be a bad thing.
No.
And as long as people are reading, because I definitely think during COVID there was a huge uptake in books and everything like that. And I mean, suddenly everybody was like, oh, I've got to get my hands on some books, because there wasn't a lot else for us to do.
No. I think that can only be a good thing, because there are people, and I know people in my real life who don't read, don't enjoy reading. This isn't your real life. My real life.
This isn't
my real life.
Love it.
Just putting on an act right now. It's a persona. My name isn't even Amy. Yeah, but who will say I don't read. I just don't read, and I can't really comprehend that.
No, me either.
But I know from how big books have become in Booktok and Bookstagram, they have found a book they enjoy reading, and now they enjoy reading. So I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
No.
However, to me there is a negative there, and that is that there are books that they know what works. They have found the formula, and it's almost like, and I read a great article about this, so this isn't my original idea, but it's almost as if it's like fast fashion for books.
Oh, yeah, that is a really great way of putting it.
That, I don't want to say they're cheap, it's not fair.
No, but I do think the publishing company needs to answer. The publishing companies need to potentially slow down in their productions, because they are churning out, and I know there's a lot of them, and they are churning books out at a rate that is just unkeepable. That's a word.
Totally agree.
And also I do think that other books do go unnoticed.
Yes.
Because of the books, I swear to God, and I know we're gonna have to keep going back onto these books, but ACOTAR, it's had its time. No matter your opinion of them, just let them go.
Yeah.
I'm convinced every fucker in the world's read ACOTAR by now. So just, let's start looking at some more books.
Let's not try and also jump on the back of someone else's success. Let's not do that.
Right.
Let's not always have a quote of something and something.
Yes.
I did it. Because we know what we're getting if we read those kind of books, right?
It's also tough as well, because unfortunately authors write books in years before they're published as well. So imagine being the author that wrote A Court of Roses and Thorns, and Sarah J Maas comes out and it goes massive, and you're just like, oh, for fuck's sake. Like, I'm just going to look like this is a retelling, But
I also sometimes think it's not the author's fault. I think the publishers pick them up and go, what would make this really popular? If we called it something like this, because we know that this will sell. Yeah. We know that people are looking for other books like this.
Yeah, and also I think there's a huge problem. I think there's a huge problem with publishers taking books and taking authors and putting them out to be something they're not.
Yes.
That will fit the mould of TikTok and Bookstagram, and that's a con for sure.
Yeah. How often do you see for fans of da and da, or if you love this, you'll love that, and as you say, it's always the big players that they compare it to.
Yeah.
And you've got a really good point that you bring up, or you brought up to me before. You can elaborate on this, but in that they can't compete with that.
No, of course, it's Six of Crows. Whenever I see a book that's like Six of Crows meets something, I'm interested. But then I think about that book. I think that poor author, because Six of Crows is internationally loved, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that book doesn't stand a chance. I'm just saying, let's actually give that book a chance by not giving it such a incredible height to try and hit.
Yeah. Yeah, it's almost like it's a second act follow-up, isn't it? And it's like, ooh.
Yeah, for sure. Everyone's going to now be like, oh, that one that's like Six of Crows but isn't half as good.
Yeah, that one, yeah. And then, or they start reading it and go, oh, this hasn't got me gripped the way Six of Crows has.
Yeah.
So this isn't going to be...
And it's tough.
Worthwhile.
It's tough because ultimately that's how you get an engagement. You know, we're always comparing. We're always like, oh, I watched Angel because I watched Buffy. Or like, you know, I watched Firefly because I watched Buffy. A bit of toxic Joss Whedon for everybody on a Wednesday afternoon. There's always a link somehow, and that's how we find different books and things. Ultimately, though, I won't take a Booktok review on faith, not just one. You know, I won't just see it a lot in Booktok and be like, I've got to buy it.
No.
I'll go with Booktok. I'm less influenced, but Bookstagram does influence me, but only when I see a review from my friends being like, oh, but I also like. I don't know if Booktok has this ability or not, but I know we do have the ability to message each other. But I just think Bookstagram, it's a bit more closer to your fingertips to just message and reply to stories and things.
Okay.
To be like, oh, is this any good? I'd love to talk to you about this. I find TikTok, all of TikTok and Booktok, as less accessible.
I don't think TikTok's designed. I could be completely wrong, but I don't think it's designed to have that kind of social element to it, that kind of conversational element. Because anytime I've seen, or not any time, but a lot of time when you do see people asking questions on TikTok of content creators and being like, oh, how did you find that book?
Yeah.
Very rarely you'll see that someone's responded to it.
Yeah, or do you think if they do respond, it's quite a vague answer of, I enjoyed it.
Yes.
Yeah, whereas, okay, which puts into my head the idea that Bookstagram is potentially the more sophisticated older sibling.
I can see it. Yeah, and there's more depth perhaps to Bookstagram, because even in Booktok you get a limited number of characters to write a comment.
Yes,
so you're not encouraged to write a lot of detail.
You do in Bookstagram, but it is vastly... The comments are vastly larger, for sure. We love both of them. We wouldn't be probably making this podcast for as many people as we are.
We wouldn't have felt there was an audience to make this podcast. If I did this before the discovery of Booktok, so maybe thinking about like pre-pandemic, I've always loved reading, but I wouldn't have imagined there would be an audience of people wanting to listen to me and someone talk about books. Yeah. Right? I think, who's going to really want to hear that?
Yeah, and ultimately, they're both great tools for the two of us, because it'll only make more readers for you and I to A, make friends with, and B, have more conversations.
Yeah, absolutely. So no, I haven't got any. Overall, I think it would be really hypocritical for me to say that I have an issue with either of them. But we know, and I think as long as you go in there trying to be quite, not critical, but just think about things, maybe don't take everything on face value.
Yeah.
As you say, maybe have a look, see if you can maybe find someone that you trust. Trust their opinion about a book.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, there's nothing wrong with DNFing a book either. Sorry,
no.
DNFing for the uneducated. No offence, guys. Did not finish.
But so many.
Yeah. You know, but there's nothing wrong with that. So, you know, but because of the wealth of content on both, things get lost in the sand, or, you know, you could be shown the same things again and again, and that really does saturate that. But you can always find some great gems.
Always.
Did you enjoy my sitting on the fence answer?
Yeah, I did, because I get what you're trying to say, totally.
This whole Minisode has been a sit on the fence.
I know, but I think we were never really going to come into this ranting or raving about it, because I think people appreciate, right, that in any kind of social media, you can use it for good, you can use it for ill. That's
evil
the internet.
Is what I would say. Evil.
Right? Yeah. That is the internet, and any kind of social media has that. And as you say, is it really a big deal if there's a really overly hyped book that you read and then you don't enjoy it? Not really.
No.
There's also that element of you might miss something really good that an author's put a lot of time into, but it's just not been. It's not, dragons aren't the flavour of the month anymore, and therefore they just don't get the recognition that they deserve.
And that's it. It burns out certain elements of books.
Mm-hmm.
There was a really great book, Dragonfall by L.R. Lamb, that came out just about the same time as Fourth Wing. And it's an incredible book. It's vastly different. It's much more high fantasy. It's not YA. There is a romance. It's a slow burn, but it's also queer. It's an incredibly fucking in-depth and so wonderfully written. And it's just written a bit more sophisticatedly than Fourth Wing. No offence, Rebecca. But I feel like it potentially suffered because people were just expecting, more dragons, and it's like, I'm bored of dragons now, or if this isn't like Fourth Wing, then it can just go in the bin.
Or you only wrote this because of
people don't seem to understand that this will have been in the works for years beforehand.
Yeah, because people just read a book and then decide they want to write a similar book, and it takes them a week, right? That's how these things work.
It's easy for me. Yeah. I do think we should spend a couple of minutes just on the ills of social media. Of course, it's like we're obviously talking to people who are in an era of social media, and the idea of just a nice one, guys. Don't worry about it. Don't worry what anyone else is reading. Don't worry about what anyone else is posting. Don't worry if Jim Bob got 50,000 views. It doesn't matter. Read what you want to read. Post what you want to post. Don't tag authors in reviews.
No.
Sorry. Don't tag authors in negative reviews.
Yeah.
It's not cool. And just be kind to each other.
Just be kind.
I will say that about the bookish community and the TikTok community and the Booktok community. All of my experiences have been pretty positive.
I would agree, and without generalising too much, it feels like a much more accepting community. I wouldn't be as worried about putting things out there for Booktok, for Bookstagram, but I wouldn't want to put it out into the big bad. The
big element of TikTok.
Oh,
yeah.
No,
for sure. If I keep my content about books, I feel pretty safe.
Yeah.
I do think there is an almost darker side, which we can touch on very, very quickly. But just, shaming people for not reading fast enough, or like telling people that audiobooks aren't books, like
saying you're not reading if you're listening to a book.
Yeah, let's not be ableist, guys. Like,
yeah, come on.
It's absolutely nothing wrong.
No.
All books are books.
Also, what does it have to? Why are you worried about it?
Why does it matter what other people read when you read?
Exactly. Like, if you read and they read, and you get a chance to talk to them about books that you both either enjoy or don't enjoy or have different opinions on, that's just all good.
Yeah.
As long as you're reading in some way and you enjoy it.
Like in life,
for it
doesn't matter when everyone else is reading. If you're reading and you're enjoying it, you're fine.
Yeah, and if whatever you're reading...
Don't shit on people.
No, and whatever you do enjoy, there will be other members of the Booktok Bookstagram community
you're not alone.
who also enjoy those things.
You're not alone.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us who have loved reading since we were young, sometimes it's been a point of, we've been made fun of because of it, and, but now it's nice to know that it is right in popular culture, and reading is cool. Reading's always been cool.
Reading's always been cool to us.
Didn't need Booktok or Bookstagram to convince me of that.
No. It is interesting now, maybe the demographic who are reading now, who perhaps would not have been so into reading when when they were at school. Maybe not because they didn't enjoy it, but maybe because there was a stigma attached, it wasn't seen as particularly cool, and they wanted to do what the cool kids were doing. And now they're discovering books, and
all I'll say to them is,
love it.
You've lost out on time, man.
I know.
There was no point. But yeah, we're cool, and that's all that matters. All right, guys, are we done? Do you think?
I think we're done. I think we've covered it.
Nailed it. We've solved it. Any problems that anyone's had with Booktok or Bookstagram, solved. Enjoy it, guys. It's fun.
It's bookish. We're a bookish podcast. This is some bookish content.
Absolutely. And we'll see you next time.
Take it easy. Bye.
Happy reading.